spouse says they want out of this relationship and tell you they want a divorce, you are probably going to panic. It probably feels like your whole world is coming and crashing down. You might feel a variety of emotions. You might feel angry and sad and resentful and betrayed and just so hurt at the prospect of this person causing you so much pain and causing so much destruction to your life and perhaps that of your family. You might have children involved, and if so, that makes everything so much more painful. But what can you do, and what do most people do? So, if the husband comes home, says he wants a divorce, for example, the wife, she might have been expecting it, or the husband might have been expecting it. Often divorces don't just come out of nowhere. There have been problems for weeks, months, and probably years going on. Sometimes when there are problems in a marriage, people get so used to there being problems, they just think, actually, we're okay living a dysfunctional life. We're okay in a dysfunctional marriage. Yeah, we argue every day. No one really looks out for each other. We don't have caring conversations. There's a lack of emotional and physical intimacy in this marriage. No one eats together, no one cooks for anyone, no one's taking care of other people's needs. It's almost like two individuals living in a home, and there could be children there, part of this dysfunction. But you think, well, this is how we live, and we just got used to it, so why can't you just carry on living like this? And even in a situation like that, when the husband or wife comes home saying, I want a divorce, the other person can be in complete shock. And perhaps it shouldn't be a shock. Perhaps it should be, well, quite expected because there's been so much chaos. But often it is a shock. And most divorces are not mutually agreed. If this couple cannot agree on anything, remember, they can't agree on anything, and they certainly usually can't agree that we should both get divorced. It's often a unilateral decision. Women are initiating divorces far more than men, so, and that might surprise people. So, coming back to the strategy, what can you do? So, you are the spouse that doesn't want a divorce. You don't want your wife, let's just assume it's your wife right now, they're the most common initiators of divorce. You don't want a divorce. You want the family to work things out. You want things to stay together. You want to rebuild a functional life. You want your children to grow up in a home. What can you do? Well, normally what happens is when one person says, that's it, we're getting divorced, I'm getting divorced, I've had enough, I can't live like this anymore, I don't want to be part of this anymore. And the person's often been thinking about it for a while. They might have planned their finances, they might have planned their get out, they might have been waiting for the children to grow up, they might have been waiting for some stability before they pursue this. And they might be quite serious about it. Often people have reached that point where they're really talking about it openly, and they have reached that point and they are serious about it. One reason it is surprising too is because before one person announces divorce, there's often a period of calmness. And that period of calmness where there's no arguments and there's no shouting and there's no arguing is almost because that person has accepted, I am no longer in this relationship. I've emotionally signed out of this relationship. There's no need to argue with that person anymore. I have no expectations from them. I have no needs from them. I've distanced myself so much from them and their pain and their issues and what they do to me and what I do to them, that I no longer need to argue. I'm not going to waste my energy in that. So that can give the other person a misleading impression that actually everything's okay. We were arguing months ago. We were arguing every night. We were arguing all day long. But actually, things have been quite calm now. So what's changed? I thought you were okay. But actually, no, they weren't okay. They had completely signed out and you hadn't really noticed. So back to what can you do? Most people will respond in a way they'll just get angry. They'll shout at that person, "How can you do this to me? How can you do this to our family?" They'll plead. They might try and gaslight them. You're not going to find anybody else. Look at what you're doing to the children. Look at what you're doing to the home. Look at what I've given you all these years. How can you do this? And they might shout at them. And that's what most people do. Unfortunately, that doesn't really help because what it does, it reinforces the idea that I'm married to the wrong person. If this person's going to shout and scream and abuse me like they've been doing all these years, then they're just showing me who they really are. And I'm even more convinced this is the right decision to leave this. And it's an interesting approach to actually flip things around. And I came across this approach in a book by Michele Weiner-Davis. So do have a look at the book, Divorce Remedy, and credit to her because she talks about this approach and she says, turn it around. Try and just stay calm. Try and think about being the best version of yourself and try and just keep things calm. Maybe make a nice meal. It's the last thing you're going to want to be doing. But imagine making a nice meal. Imagine it being calm. Imagine having the children and just eating and inviting your spouse to be part of this meal. What you want to be doing is trying to repair things. And I thought her approach was just so Islamic too, because Islamically divorce is not really a one-time event that's it, we're getting divorced. Even if someone initiates a divorce, and even if the man actually says divorce to his wife, and he shouldn't do that more than once, because of they can count and consult your local madhab for what it says on that. But if he says it once, the couple are meant to still live together and try and work things out. So you could also remind your spouse, I know you've decided, I know you're thinking about this, but I'm just making a meal and the kids are eating and you're just eating. They might say, what are you doing? What are you up to? It's not going to happen. I've decided, and that's just fine. Whatever. Let them just say whatever they want to say and just focus on that idea, that Islamic idea of trying to live together in peace and seeing if you can work it out. You don't necessarily need to tell them. We could just say it. You can if you like. We could just say, look, I just want to concentrate on having a meal with our family and just dress up, look presentable. Sometimes we forget these things. Men and women, we're so busy running around working. Just wear something nice. Put some perfume on. If you're a lady, you can wear it at home. Men can put some after on. And just try and make this marriage work. Know that even if it doesn't work out, you can put your hand on your heart and you know that you have done your best for even from this moment, even so late on in the day, you haven't given up because marriage is precious and having a home and a family is such a precious gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And even if there have been mistakes, and often it's not one person, often there are two people making mistakes. That's not always the case. Sometimes it is one person who's really unfortunately creating all the problems. But most marriages, I'd say, well, yeah, husband and wife, there's probably some issues on both sides. Try and just keep your ego quiet, tell it to be muted for now. And if you need to vent, and you will need to vent, you will feel angry, there will be a lot of emotions. Don't take them out on your spouse, seek a professional help, book sessions in for counseling, therapy, talking to someone, and just vent and get that support that you need to keep going to show up and become the best version of yourself for this time. It's really important to just try and be the best version of yourself and to be consistent in that because one day you might do that and then the next day you're back to shouting and screaming and throwing things around or whatever you're doing. Obviously we shouldn't do that, but just explaining what happens in chaotic households, that the rage, what it can do to people. What you want to be doing is showing up the next day and again being the best version of yourself, dressing up well, smelling good, food's there, family are around, everyone's looking okay. If you carried on doing that every day consistently, imagine what would happen after a week. Is your spouse not going to think twice? Start thinking, well, actually, everything's kind of okay. Why would I want to leave this? And just keep going. A week's not enough. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, at least a month. I aim for 3 months of showing up every day, your best version, and being consistent. If you show up for 5, 6 days and then you start shouting and screaming or start being abusive, it's going to undo all that work, unfortunately. So it will take a lot of effort to do that, especially if you're not used to doing it, especially as you now are living in this time of uncertainty and feeling so much anger and dealing with so much uncertainty. But it's really important. Keep making du'as, keep giving sadaqah, keep turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, keep reminding yourself of how important it is to do everything to save your marriage. And inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and your home. So follow the advice, inshallah, there'll be more marriage tips coming. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all the marriages, bless all the homes, help us all to fix our issues, whatever they are, and try not to leave it so late that it ends up on the borderline of getting divorced because that's not where people want to go. That's not where the Ummah needs our families to go. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all our homes and families, inshallah. Remember, the effects of divorce are wide, they're devastating. They don't just affect us for the rest of our lives, they don't just affect our children for the rest of their lives, they affect our grandchildren, the intergenerational effects of trauma from a divorced family. So do everything, inshallah. Everyone watching this video is making du'as for you and for everybody else who's struggling with their marriages. And we'll send some more tips in our next videos. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.